This will be a debunk, proving that Trump is not aid biased against blue states. And he is aid biased against blue states is factually incorrect, and it is all for good reason. Dems and leftists on record refusing aid to disaster area people merely because their houses had MAGA signs in their yards and more. Don't even get me started on all that. I'll go on about. Zero wrong or bad denial of aid from President Trump. Zero evidence of real bias like that. Most rejected only for a reason. They didn't pass thresholds states needed to be able to pay for themselves more than before, etc. Officials argue that federal disaster relief has become an overly expensive crutch and that states should lower more financial and operational accountability for localized events. Especially blue states more so, who hemorrhage America and say they need more when they really don't. President has sole legal authority over disaster declarations. FEMA and NOAA do the damage assessment and make recommendations, but they do not get the final say. Trump is exercising that authority to push back against treating routine snow removal as a federal entitlement, for example. Snow assistance has historically gone overwhelmingly to Democrat-led states simply because they sit in the snow belt. The Trump administration is right in that the federal role is for truly extraordinary events that overwhelm state and local capacity, not for flowing streets or small floods that states can usually and are supposed to handle if they can. The White House has been clear that there is no politicization and that they make decisions that are made with care to ensure aid supplements, not replaces state obligations. Past presidents approved nearly every snow request that met the numbers. That does not make it the only correct approach. Trump is applying a stricter standard across the board, and if states want the money, then they can appeal. Congress can change the rules if it disagrees. The numbers are real. Trump has approved roughly 80 to 90 or so percent of disaster requests from Republican-led states and only 23 to 60% from Democrat-led ones. But the claim of pure bias falls apart on the law, policy, and the factors that I have presented here. Blue states always get more because, like all blue states, they whine, defraud, and expect more. They're crybabies. A FEMA spokesperson put it bluntly. If the federal government pays for regular snow plowing, what next? Garbage collection? That is the principle. Blue states sit in the snow belt, so they have historically received the bulk of these declarations. Trump is correcting that pattern across the board, not inventing a new one for political enemies. The 4 February blizzard denials followed the same logic. The states met the preliminary thresholds, but the administration determined the costs were manageable state responsibilities. Trump is applying a uniform, tighter filter. If Congress disagrees, it can change the statute. Tons of instances of leftists refusing urgent care and procedures for MAGA patients due to bias. All the left does is harm Americans in countless ways, documented, and y'all want to throw a fit over some funding? All y'all do is throw us under the bus because we support President Trump, with some leftists even going as far as to say inject them intentionally with lethal agents or doctors refusing care for MAGA patients. Where was Trump? Bud, where was Biden? The Hawaii fires, the train accident in Ohio, the California fires? Tons of Americans and even truck drivers started movements after aid took so long, with people asking, where is Biden on camera? Not that Biden never came for them, but still, your side in those factors is already way worse. Trump issued aid so quickly to massive flooding recently in my state, so quickly that I couldn't even believe it. Since 1999, about 82% of FEMA snow assistance went to states that are currently mostly Democratic-led, mostly because they sit in the snow belt. Republican-led states got roughly 6%. The geography drives the numbers, not just politics. Trump's stricter standard hits blue states harder simply because they request more of this routine stuff and hemorrhaged us, like always. Administration's point is that states should budget for regular winter operations instead of treating federal money as the default. Same for just any disaster. Blue states soak it all up and then cry victim because they feel entitled to more. Not how things work. This is all per Politico, E&E News, and Thomas Frank, March 23rd, 2026. Also per Politico, July 29th, 2026. Per Politico, July 8th, 2026. And also FEMA's official page on how a disaster gets declared. The rest of the sources are linked.